Hey ladies, welcome back to the show. On today's episode, we are going to talk about this idea of turning intention into action, how to stop wishing that we could do something and start doing it for your health. We've all been there. We set intentions to improve our health. We promise ourselves that we're going to eat better, that we're going to exercise more, that we're going to get better sleep. But somehow, sometimes these intentions stick, and other times they fall by the wayside. So we're going to talk today about why do sometimes we not act on our intentions, why sometimes we do act on our intentions, some of the mindset shifts that will probably help you along the way, and questions to ask yourself as you start to turn the intention that you have today for your health into action. Welcome to the Whole Health Empowerment Project podcast. This show is for women over 40 who are trying to create balance in their life when it comes to food, body, self-care, and wellness. You struggle to put yourself first, to maintain consistency when something isn't perfect, or maybe you feel like you don't have enough time or willpower to achieve the goals you desire. I'm your host, Trisha Stefankowitz, registered dietitian, nutritionist. I've worked with women like you achieve their goals by focusing on the next best step, no matter how messy, and meeting you where you are right now. In this show, you'll learn practical information, actionable strategies, and mindset tweaks so that you can feel healthier, more comfortable in your body, and make choices that work for your life. Come join me in failing forward, one imperfect step at a time, into the journey of health, wellness, and self-care. Welcome to your new project. In an effort to understand our intentions, let's talk about why we sometimes don't take action. And let's see if any of these sound familiar to you. Some of the reasons, or one of the first reasons, is fear of failure. The fear of not succeeding, that you've done this a million times before, but maybe this time you're afraid to fail again. That can be quite paralyzing. And we worry about putting in the effort and making all of that sacrifice only to fall short for the millionth time. And that can lead to us not taking any action at all, especially when it comes to our health, especially if we have a history that we've been able to do it and other times maybe we failed at it. This can stem, again, from our past experiences where we've tried to make changes, but they either didn't stick or we didn't get the outcome that we had hoped for. And it reinforced this belief that if we try again, we can risk having and being disappointed the same way we were in the past. Another reason can be that we are quite overwhelmed by the goals that we have. I think a lot about weight loss when it comes to this. And if you're somebody who has a lot of weight to lose, the actual big goal of it can feel very overwhelming. And a lot of times the goals that we set are so vague that it feels like a big goal, and the vagueness makes it really hard to see how you're going to be able to make that possible. Telling yourself that you want to get healthier or that you want to lose weight is a huge burden, and it feels like a big task that will take a long time to achieve. And oftentimes it leads to procrastination or just a feeling of overwhelm. And if you're not able to break these goals down into specific and measurable and time-bound form of action, it's going to be really hard to be able to achieve the goal that you want. Another reason why we want to take action but we don't is that you may not see that immediate reward. You could feel motivated and that you are so excited to either lift heavier or to lose weight or to feel better. But you may not see the results right away, and it can make it feel really hard to continue in that place of feeling like you're sacrificing and making effort, but not getting the outcome that you desire. And so our brains are wired to seek immediate reward and instant gratification. So when we don't see that quick result, it's quite tempting to feel like, why am I doing this? And to give up altogether. Another reason can be this comfort in the familiar habits that we're doing. We may not like the habits that we're doing, but we know them. And changing habits requires us to step out of our comfort zone. And as humans, we don't like that. Even if we know that our current habits aren't serving us, they are familiar and they feel safe to us. Years ago, when I was doing therapy, which I continue to do, my therapist was asking me about my anxiety, and it doesn't feel good and it doesn't serve me all the time. But at that particular time, I didn't want to change it. And it wasn't that I didn't want to not be anxious. It was that it was familiar and safe. And while I was working on other things, I felt like I needed that safety. And so perhaps you're in a place that you're trying to make a health change, and that you know that there is going to be some discomfort and it's going to require effort. And you don't want to feel any of those uncomfortable feelings. And so you decide that you're going to stay where you are. You know it's not serving you. You know it's going to keep you stuck in a rut, but you just don't have that capacity at this point in time to make that change. And that's okay. It's just becoming aware of what is happening so that you can take ownership of that. And then you can decide to take that off the table or not. For me, the anxiety, I wasn't going to deal with it at that time, but I have since done that. And so it's trying to figure out where you are and what you are willing to do so that you don't get stuck in this place that you feel like you don't have any control, because you do. And so the last thing we're going to talk about, why we want to take action, but we don't, is also you could be in this place where perfectionism is getting in the way. You have this belief that everything you do needs to be done in a way that is perfect. And if you don't do it in that way, then it doesn't matter. When it comes to our health, this can present in ways such as if you miss your workout, that you need to stop or that you need to work harder. This could be if you eat an unhealthy meal, that maybe you feel like you've failed and you're just going to abandon all the efforts, all of the action that you previously took because because you feel like it wasn't good enough. And so you abandon all of your efforts because you feel like it wasn't good enough. And so all of these things are ways that keep us stuck and keep us from experiencing the discomfort, which in turn keeps us in a place where we feel like we're in a roadblock, or that we feel stuck, or that we feel like it's really hard to make a change. Now, there are some times where you do take action. And so let's discover that, because we can kind of see a little bit more of how that differs from when you perhaps don't take action and some of the things that you may be thinking or experiencing. When people take action and it seems to stick, one of the big things is that there is a strong emotional connection to the goal. So that could be you have found your why, or you have this thing that maybe you have an illness that is in your family that you want to stop. And so there is a strong connection to it. You may have a family history of diabetes, for instance, and you don't want to experience that same feeling. It could also be your own disease that maybe you have, and you don't want your child to get that, or you don't want other family members to be in that same position. And so oftentimes when there is this emotional component to it that you feel, again, related to disease state of your own or past medical history of your family, or even your own like desire that you want something different or you want to end that cycle, having that strong emotional connection will help you, and often has been shown to help habits become a little bit more consistent. When you're able to clarify and be very specific with what it is you want to achieve and how you are going to achieve it, that will also be a way that you are going to be more likely to take action and to be consistent. This can go in line also with SMART goals. So instead of saying, I want to get fitter or I want to lose weight, you become very clear on what is your goal and how you're going to achieve that. And so you say, I am going to walk every day for this many minutes, and be really clear in terms of how you're going to do it. So what your goal is, how you're going to make it measurable, attainable, how you're going to put that into your life, and how it is going to have some kind of time component to it, that you have a measurable idea of how you're going to do it each week. Another thing that works here is also having some kind of positive reinforcement, that when you see progress, no matter how small, you reinforce that behavior. So when you see that, oh, I feel better, I feel like I have more energy, I feel like having regular physical activity helps me sleep at night. Even those teeny tiny, what feels teeny tiny to you, improvements in your life goes such a long way when it comes to consistency. Because once you can relate what you're doing to how you feel and how that is beneficial in your life, that's what's going to keep you motivated. That's going to keep providing that positive reinforcement that what you're doing is working, and that you want to keep going because you want to be in a place where you feel that good all of the time. Having accountability and support, of course, helps with achieving any goal. When you are able to share your journey with others, that makes a big difference. It's so hard to go through health changes and a health journey that you know is going to take some time when you feel like you're doing it alone and you feel like other people probably don't understand. So if you're able to have some kind of community and you know that someone else is aware of your goals, that can really encourage you to be consistent, to provide and take action when you perhaps don't feel like it. It can help you when you feel like you are in this perfectionistic mode, or you are in a place that you're not feeling that your effort is being rewarded, to talk to somebody that knows how you feel and that will keep you on the journey. Having somebody to talk to and to support you and to hold you accountable will always be something that is worth it in an effort to keep you on track with the goals that you're trying to do. And then also knowing that when you're able to take these small actions, that helps build momentum. And where you're going to get success is where you're going to get momentum. So if you're in a place that you are very inconsistent with your action, it's going to be hard to maintain the momentum to keep moving forward. But if you're able to take small action every day, you're going to start to be really proud of yourself that you did that beyond your expectation, but also that you felt like you honored what was important to you that day. And then over time, as you continue at that momentum, you are going to have success with what you're trying to do. That will then in turn lead you to see that there's a positive impact at what you're doing. And then likely that's going to help you be consistent and maintain action when it comes to what you're trying to achieve. But one of the things that's really important when you talk about turning intention into action means that you're probably going to have a shift in your mindset. And so we've talked about why we don't take action, and then we've talked about why some people do. And it's not that all of a sudden one day they were like, hey, I'm going to take action and it's going to be consistent. It was really that there was some mindset change that occurred that was able to keep somebody, maybe you in the past or maybe you now, that it was able to keep you focused and able to keep you on your journey. And again, it's not like all of a sudden you will wake up and say, hey, I'm going to take action. And then you feel like you're going to do it for the long term. But really, you're having this mindset shift that helped you move from simply intending to improve your life to actually making changes happen and happen consistently. So some of the first mindset changes were that instead of fearing that you wouldn't be perfect, that you were able to see that progress matters. So this idea of changing the mindset from perfectionism to a mindset of progress. So instead of saying, I must do everything perfectly, you're in a place that you're saying, I just need to make progress today. And why is that? Well, it's because perfectionism can paralyze you with fear of failure. Instead, if you're able to focus on making small, consistent improvements, then that will take you in the direction of progress, no matter how small, and progress in the right direction and in the direction of the goal that you're trying to achieve. The next mindset shift is moving from an all or nothing mentality to making incremental changes. So the shift here is that if I can't do it and do it all, then it's not worth doing. And the goal here is that you then shift to every small step that you take matters and it counts. Why? The all or nothing mentality often leads to burnout. It leads to paralysis. It leads to inaction. If you are able to embrace the idea that these small incremental changes add up over time, then each step is seen as valuable. Each step in the right direction will show you that you're closer achieving to what you want to achieve, even if it feels like it's taking time, and that you can kind of see that that's the point of it. It will never be all or nothing, that you're going to have to get these little small things to happen first before you can move forward. And so making those small steps over time will get you to the goal that you want to achieve. Another mindset shift is instead of focusing on the short-term thinking, looking at what the long-term vision that you are trying to achieve is. Instead of saying and thinking, I need immediate results, thinking to yourself that you are in this for the long haul, that this is a lifestyle change, because when you've done and had the goal of achieving immediate results, maybe it wasn't something that was able to stick. So if you're able to see that sustainable health changes take time, then you're able to shift your focus from not wanting a quick fix to having a long-term habit that supports your overall well-being, that supports you through the aging process. That is really the goal. And understanding that results will come with time if you're able to be persistent and consistent and you stay patient, that's really what's going to get you to your goal and maintain your goal for the long term. Another mindset shift is focusing on internal motivation. Another mindset shift is instead of focusing on the external motivation, focusing on why you're doing this. What is your internal motivation? Your shift is then saying, instead of saying, I should do this, you're shifting that more onto yourself, that you want to do this for you. Instead of having the external motivation by what society wants you to look like or what society wants you to do or how other people and what they look like, really starting to be rooted within your core values, what you desire, really figuring out why it is that you want to feel better or live longer or be more present in your life. That is going to take you a lot further because you're going to be able to really get to a place that you are able to become more rooted in your desires. And in the long term, that's what's going to keep you going when things are getting really difficult. And as we know, change is going to be uncomfortable. So if you're able to tap into why you're doing it, why it's important to you, that's going to take you much further down that path of discovery and willingness to be uncomfortable, as opposed to doing it because society says that you should be doing this. One of the last shifts I want to talk about, or I guess we'll talk about a couple more shifts. Another shift is this fear of failure and learning to embrace discomfort and this idea of learning new things. Failure often means that you're not capable, that you won't be able to do it. But if you're able to see and have that shift, that failure is part of the process, and then it's an opportunity for growth and learning, then you're going to be able to reframe that learning process. And you're going to be in a place that you don't see every attempt and effort at something as a failure, but rather as an opportunity to learn and to grow and to adjust and to make lasting changes for the long term. Another mindset shift, we'll do a couple more mindset shifts. And then over the next couple weeks, I'll kind of dig in these a little bit more because I think to just go through them so briefly, sometimes if we are really struggling, maybe getting into these a little bit more would be helpful. This idea that you need to have instant gratification is something that I think most of us feel in this age of technology where things come to us very quickly. But having that mindset shift that maybe your gratification needs to be delayed will help, especially when it comes to any health changes, because typically when you're making health changes or any change that's going to maybe take a little bit of time, you're not going to produce immediate results. You're not going to probably get that instant gratification. And that can be really discouraging, and that can make you stay in a place that you're not taking any action. So if you're able to kind of know in your brain that the gratification that you feel from the health change that you're making may take a little bit of time and patience, that will hopefully allow you to trust the process of what you're doing a little bit more, as you know that your effort may take a little time, but if you keep doing it consistently, you will get to a place where you are achieving the goals and the goals that you desire and that you deserve to have. We talk a lot about here on having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. So having this mindset shift of I'm not good at this fixed mindset that nothing can be changed. And I've done so many episodes on this. So I don't know if I'll do another one on this, but I will attach this episode in the show notes. To having this growth mindset that you believe that if you keep doing something, you can actually improve and change and get to the goal that you desire. This fixed mindset of feeling like change can't happen, it keeps you in a place where you may be very uncomfortable with trying new things, and it keeps you static and stuck. If you're able to adopt a growth mindset that you can handle challenges, that challenges are part of the deal, then you can start to really figure out and see opportunities for growth. And believing that you can develop new habits as you get older, that you can develop new skills. All of these things are important for any change or any goal that you want to achieve. It's this idea that you can do it if you believe in it and that you believe that growth is possible. And so adjusting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset is something that I think is a barrier for a lot of people, but knowing that that's probably something that if you're really struggling, I would look into that a little bit more. And again, I'll leave the previous episode that I did about this, and especially the information about Carol Dweck's book that talks about growth mindset, if that's something that you want to read. I think it's a very clinical book, but I think it can be really helpful too. Another mindset shift would be that you start to analyze some of the negative self-talk that you're doing and try to get to a place that you're either able to affirm something different, or at the very minimum that you see that there's something there that maybe doesn't serve you and that maybe you don't need anymore. And so examples of negative self-talk, I don't think I probably have to give examples because I think we all do this, was that something like, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I don't think I can make this change, I'm stupid, I can't do this. All those things that we tell ourselves over and over again in these loop patterns that are on repeat, but maybe starting to first acknowledge that you're doing that, because it's probably not even something that you're aware of if you've been doing it your whole life. But then once you become aware of it, trying to either be okay with it or to really affirm something else. So instead of saying like, I'm not strong enough, that you can start to say like, I am capable of making change and I can make that change and I am strong enough. If you keep in this negative self-talk bubble, then it just continues it. It just reinforces the belief that you can't do it. So if you're able to kind of get to a place that you are having affirmations, if you are at least in a place that you can start to challenge that thinking a little bit more, then you can start to reinforce the belief that you can do something versus feeling like you're stuck in that negative mindset. I am not a therapist, so if you are really struggling with self-criticism and negative self-talk and you feel like you need help, then I would certainly reach out to a mental health professional because that is their job. They will be able to help you, especially if you have these things that you've done your whole life and you feel like you don't know how to get out of it. That's what their job is. So I would for sure seek out the help of a mental health professional to either help you acknowledge what it is you're saying to yourself and then also help you challenge those beliefs a little bit more. Some of the other things would be shifting from comparing yourself to everybody to a place that you are having some self-compassion. It's so easy, especially with weight loss, that you're like thinking, gosh, I'm doing so much more than them and they're getting the goal that I want. And it's really important to remember that everybody is coming from a different background that you probably don't know everything about. And if you compare yourself to other people, it's going to be very hard for you to move forward. So the shift here is that instead of thinking, wow, everybody else is doing better than me, they're achieving all the things that I want to achieve, that you instead shift it to, I'm on my own journey and that's okay. I'm going to do things in my time frame. If you continue to compare yourself to others, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy. And then those feelings of inadequacy can really get you to a place that you then feel like you're very easy to give up because you don't feel like you're meeting their expectations or your own expectations. So if you're able to practice self-compassion and focus on your own progress and what is unique and individual to you, then you can start to honor your own path a little bit more. But again, I think it's really important to understand that there might be other things that are keeping you in this comparison loop, and that could be social media or things that you have instant access to. And knowing that if that is contributing to this mindset that you're comparing yourself to everybody else, that maybe you also need to minimize your time on those channels so that you can really start to focus on the path and really identify what is important to you, and that your journey may take longer than other people's, and that that's okay, because you're learning on the journey, and that growth that happens on that journey is what's really important. And then lastly, this idea that you are passive, that you don't really have like a clear intention of what you're going to do. So that instead of being passive with what it is you're trying to achieve, that you become more active and an active participant in that change that you're trying to become. So instead of saying like, well, I'll try to do this, really taking and running with it and knowing that it is something that you're going to take on actively. So instead of saying, I'm going to try to do this, you get to a place that you start to say, I'm really committed to make this change. It is really important to me, and I commit myself. When we're passive, it keeps us in a place that we don't quite have to take ownership of that. Where when you become active in that, you are able to commit yourself firmly to what it is you're trying to achieve. And that's going to help you stay in line and stay true to what it is that you're trying to achieve. When you use passive language like, oh, well, I'll try, maybe I'll do that, there isn't a lot of urgency and there isn't a lot of accountability that becomes part of that. And again, I think in the next couple weeks, I'll really go into some of these mindset shifts a little bit more, especially if it's something that we haven't covered. But before we end the episode, I want to ask you some questions that you can start to think about for yourself, that in your life right now, where you feel like you're struggling with taking action, that you have this intention, but you're really having a hard time acting on it. I want you to figure out what that is for you. Where are you struggling? I want you to start asking yourself, like, why is that important to you? Because I want you to dig a little bit more here and see if there is a strong emotional connection that's happening that can root you a little bit more to that goal. Next, I want you to see what are some of the barriers that are happening in your life that is keeping you stuck, that you're not taking action. Are you having this mindset of perfectionism, or feeling overwhelmed, or fearing failure, feeling like you want to stay in the uncomfortable feelings? Like, what is happening with you, so that we can start to figure out what mindset shifts you maybe need to make in order to get to a place that you are able to achieve the goals that you desire. And then also really getting to a place that you are able to see, once you know what it is you want, what some of those mindset shifts need to happen, really start to figure out how you can track your goals and hold you accountable, how to form community. All of these things are going to help you when it comes to maintaining your goal for the long term. And so knowing that turning intention into action, turning any intention that you have, especially when it comes to your health, wellness, and self-care goals, can be really challenging for all of us. But that if you're able to understand the reasons why you're not taking action, then you can start to overcome some of the obstacles along the way. If you're able to connect with some of your values, ask yourself the right questions, then you can really start to be consistent towards making changes that improve your health. Knowing that it's these small daily actions that add up to big changes over time. And knowing also that you may have mindset shifts that may need to happen in order to transform the intention that you have into action that can be sustained for the long term. By focusing on progress over perfection, embracing learning, committing to long-term change, you're going to be better equipped to help maintain your goals for the long term. And if you're able to change your mindset to something that, and if you're able to start working on even just one mindset shift over time, that is going to help you turn intention into action, and that will help you achieve the health, wellness, and self self-care goals that you desire for the long term. So I want you to start thinking about what health change you want to make and start thinking about some of the things that are holding you back. And then next week, we'll start diving a little bit more into some of the mindset tweaks that maybe you need in order to keep you going for the long term. I thank you so much for listening, and I will see you back here next week. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found value in this podcast, please rate, review, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends. Together, we can take tiny, imperfect steps towards creating the whole health we desire and deserve. Don't forget to grab your freebie. You can find the link in your show notes or over at trishard.com. I'll see you back here next week.